start of the year. You have a lot of stuff going on in this next year. Obviously, you've officially announced your candidacy and running for mayor.
Yep.
You had your awesome kickoff party just a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit, just jumping right in. How has that been for you? I know you've ran before. What's different this time? Where's your confidence at this time? What's going on?
Well, my confidence is off the wall right now because, before I wasn't taking donations. I was doing everything on my own and knocking doors and still walked away with between 40 and 42% of the vote. I'd have to look it up to have the exact number the last time I ran. This time I am accepting donations, and it has just been a extremely wonderful experience because I have all these people who are donating and helping with the campaign and volunteering to help. The kickoff campaign party we had every bit of 100 people there at one time, and I had a buddy of mine who owns Signal Zero Supplies. I actually teach for them, Ted. He told me that there was probably total between 150 and 200 people who actually showed up. They were just filtering in and out throughout the evening.
That's good. It's a good turnout. And I know I didn't learn this until later. I think Garage Bar and another place was also having events that same night.
That is correct.
So, I mean, that's pretty good. Splitting the difference that, the vast majority seemingly showing up for you, not saying, not dogging on whatever events or things they had, but
Trevor's a good friend of mine. I love Trevor.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about everything, your event was at Breeze, they had one at Garage Bar, everything's right there, right in that downtown community, so people could easily come to and from either event or support whatever cause they wanted to support, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
No, it was an awesome event. We also did something rather historic that nobody else has done that, to my knowledge, and I was told by everybody that was taking photos and working with me that they had never seen a group for a mayoral candidate actually march everybody from Breeze over to New York Ave and basically block the road for about 10 minutes so that we could get pictures of everybody in front of City Hall. And it was just perfect timing because City Hall just finished their renovations too for the front of the building.
Yeah, and you put a lot of those photos up. So some of those photos you can go see on social media. Obviously, you can see there was a great turnout for the event, as mentioned. Do you have any plans to do anything else like that? I mean,
I probably am going to do another event in the springtime. After the holidays, after tax season, let people get they're self-situated, and then I'll do another one where it'll be like meet the candidate. Come out, talk to me. If you haven't donated before, or if you did donate before but haven't donated the maximum, you'll be able to feel free to donate it, towards the cause. Talk to me about what my platform is, which I've talked to you privately before. My big thing is economic development.
Yeah.
Bringing back the KISS method to City Hall. Keep it simple and stupid. Make it so that permitting can be done easily with less hassle, but yet, by making it electronic and utilizing technology. However, there are still going to be those people who want to do it the old-fashioned way where they go into City Hall, fill out the permit information, and I want to keep that as well. But I also want to streamline those processes. And none of this is staff's fault. I believe this is just old policy, old procedure, and old code that needs some renovation and updating.
That's a good point. I mean, you could even bring up the B&I line of tradition and innovation, right? We do have to keep some of our traditions alive. I think that's what makes St. Cloud, but bringing in some innovations to kind of meet people that are coming in the middle,
Right.
It is still a small town, especially to those coming in from big cities.
Well, I wouldn't call it a small town with our traffic issues and stuff,
clearly.
but you get that small town feel going downtown. It's the old style brick roads with the storefronts, and it's a beautiful little town feeling. But when you actually look at the numbers, we're at around 67,000, almost 68,000 people within the city limits.
Yeah. And that number is only going up. But I mean, to your point, there's places like Winter Garden, of course, jumps immediately to mind because they have that small town downtown area, and then obviously a lot of economical growth and everything around it. I mean, you travel 10 minutes outside of Winter Garden, and you're in the middle of Orlando or in the middle of the theme parks and things
Yeah,
like that.
pretty close to it. I mean, they have good location, but we're gonna bring stuff to town. We're gonna bring business to town. We're gonna make it simple for businesses to open and not take as much time as it currently is. And again, I don't blame staff for any of this at all. This is all just, in my opinion, some outdated code and policy and procedure. And to be perfectly frank, the council has already started looking at some of the code to revamp it. And it's just been, I look forward to continuing that trend and going through code line item by line item when it comes to businesses particularly.
Now, backing up a little bit, because you had mentioned something I wanted to touch on a little bit in sort of a contextual light when it comes to it taking a village to get somewhere, to get someone where they want to be. You said last time you ran, you weren't really taking donations. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we spoke about this, you said it wasn't really a planned out kind of thing. You just decided to do it.
Right.
And then this time around, you're a lot more planned out, but also you're a lot more seasoned. You have a lot more people around you. I mean, we've known each other for almost a year now. I mean, with the BNI
It has
group,
been that long.
yeah, with the BNI group, you very much facilitate a lot of the backbone of the small business and the local business. I think you're carrying that into your campaign for sure, because you can see where everyone around you struggles, but also having, as you said, a very good support system and being willing to ask for help. How has that transition of the last time you ran into this time, that growth, where does that come from, and how do you see oh wow, I did a lot of things not necessarily wrong, because we only do things to the best of our ability in the
Right.
moment, but where do you see your almost things that you played to your detriment the first time around, and now you're a lot more open to them this time?
Well, the first time I didn't throw a big campaign kickoff party.
Sure.
Because I wasn't taking donations. I was just focused on trying to see how to strategize back then.
Okay.
And I was relatively new to it and didn't have a lot of experience and didn't know a lot of the tools that you could use as a candidate to get in front of your future constituents and voters. And I'm just way more organized this time. Like, hands down, super organized compared to what it was before.
Kind of flying by the seat of your pants the first time around?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's been great. My previous candidate actually was on my host committee. The first time I did have a host committee, but it was like 35 people. This time my host committee was 179 people.
It's good. And more support. Obviously, this being in business, once you get exposed to one person, it's not just being exposed to them, it's being exposed to their whole network.
Correct.
As is why I essentially do these in the first place.
Right.
It's not just to reach my audience. My audience slowly grows, but it grows by reaching other people's audience.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Which, let me cut this, because I completely forgot to, because I just get lost in conversation with you most of the time. Obviously, the world has changed a lot from 10 years ago when the first time you ran, but in that time of you kind of collecting all this knowledge and collecting all these resources, has your, let's say, method of attack or tactics changed any from what you wanted to tackle then to what you want to tackle now? And is there anything back then that wasn't fixed or set up right that you still need to kind of put your hands into and see if you can mold in a better way?
Well, a lot of those issues I had was with the water, and that has been sold to Toho. So, they've done a great job pumping millions upon millions of dollars into the infrastructure and water plants here in the St. Cloud area. So that is getting sorted out. But, I mean, traffic has always been a big one for me too, and I see where we're getting the growth. I see where we're putting streetlights, but in reality, streetlights are not as effective as people think. they actually, when you put in a traffic circle, it reduces accidents by 67% compared to a traffic light, because in most of those accidents happen when you are turning left across traffic. So if you have a traffic circle, you're avoiding that completely by not having that left-hand turn. I mean,
Sure.
you are turning left like NASCAR, but
Right.
you're going in a much different avenue.
Kissimmee clearly has a lot more of those than we do.
They
even
do.
in non-high traffic areas, there's quite a few of them. I think Kissimmee has developed a lot of their roads to kind of incorporate that. And to your point, I mean, I've been in 2 accidents. Both were at red lights from someone running a red light. So it completely eliminates that. I mean, when you drive up to one for the first time, because I can still remember the first time I drove up to a couple, I was just kind of like, what the hell am I doing? But I mean, it does flow, the traffic, the flow of traffic is much better, it's much easier.
And on top of that, it not only is it safer on just the light aspect, but you're forced to inherently slow down so you can make that turn.
Sure.
So by doing that, you're not having somebody trying to run a yellow light to beat the red by putting their pedal to the floor.
Right.
Again, that's how a lot of accidents are caused. And street lights, where they have a purpose, they should not be used as a save-all.
Right.
There should be a healthy mix.
And I think obviously it contributes to the traffic. I mean, you think about Narcoossee up in Lake Nona, street light after street light after street light, 192 street light after street light, and that's where most of your congestion and most of your traffic is.
Right.
I mean, there's not much we can do about that now. Those are already in place, but the progress of
Well, speaking of Narcoossee and 192, believe it or not, we wouldn't be able to do much about it anyways.
Yeah, and you've highlighted
because
this, yes.
192 is a state road, so in order to do any work on that road, the city of St. Cloud can't actually do it. They have to approach our state representatives and request funding and authorization for anything to be done within the city limits of St. Cloud on 192.
Right.
Same thing with Narcoossee, except that is a county road, County Road 15. Canoe Creek, Old Canoe Creek, are all the same. Now, where we really can make a difference is in the neighborhoods and within the grid area. Now, a lot of people have also asked me about annexation and how I feel about it. Annexation is a good thing if you can get to it before the impact fees are paid to the county. So if you can get in there and then get the ground, excuse me, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to chop this.
That's okay.
Okay, let me start from the top on that one. So people have asked me whether or not annexation is a good thing. It is a good thing in some ways, and it's a bad thing in others. Like, take for instance, if we take the manor, I would not want to annex in the manor. The manor is these larger 5-acre lots where if we had to provide services, fire, police, utilities, things of that nature, it's not going to pay for itself. But if we're annexing a piece of land that has not been developed on yet, has not been approved, impact fees have not been paid yet, then we can capitalize on that by setting the code and setting the standard. By, for instance, in order to have a healthy tax base, you have to have between 25 and 35% commercial, citywide. Now, what you would do is you have developments like Kindred and the new one Edgewater going up, where they have commercial, which is retail space, office space, and real light industrial space set aside for a lot of those areas. And that will increase the value of that area and allow that area to pay for itself.
Right.
So if we set a standard saying that you got to have a minimum of 25% some kind of commercial, whether it be retail, light industrial, textile, that actually would be a betterment to the city, so that way we can bring in that taxable income. And you do that, you streamline how businesses can open, everything works hand in hand. Plus, instead of people being out on the road, they can go down to their local market that's in walking distance
Right.
instead of having to drive.
Yeah.
So
I grew up in the manor. You know how long it was before we actually had a store that was close to where I grew up? So it was a lot, you know, that it definitely helped everyone in the area.
yeah. So I mean, if we focus on easing business and bringing in that economic development, everything else is going to end up righting itself.
Sure.
You know, it'll help with the infrastructure because we'll be able to pay for it. It'll help bring in more qualified police and fire while at the same time keeping the talent that we currently have. You know, St. Cloud used to be known as a training ground. People would come work for the city of St. Cloud and fire or police. They would do their year or two, and then they would go somewhere else because they could make more money. Now, St. Cloud is slowly getting away from that, but a way to ensure that that stops almost entirely is bringing that economic development,
Right.
so that we have coin in the purse to pay our bills.
You were saying that, like, it struck me. Okay, so, I mean, I believe, obviously, the crux of wisdom is planting seeds for trees that, you know, you're never going to sit in the shade of, right?
Right.
So, let's say you do a term, 2 terms, you know, 10 years down the road, it's someone else's time to run for mayor. Where do you want St. Cloud to be? And not just where do you want it to be, even with everything going on now, where do you see it going and what do you want your hand in that to be?
I want to be the mayor that brings jobs to this area. Okay. So, like I said, my whole campaign is going to be based on economic development, because if you bring in the economic development, you solve the rest of the city's issues because you have the money to spend. Mm-hmm. You know, unlike, you know, there were times in this city where, you know, we had firefighters or police being paid on grants. And, you know, when that grant money ran out, we didn't know how we were going to pay them. You know, it's gotten better because we have gotten a little more industry and commercial since the last time I ran, but it's still not enough.
Right. Especially for the trajected growth. I mean, you talk about, you know, Edgewater and things like that, and all the development going in on Kissimmee Park Road.
That is Edgewater's Kissimmee Park Road.
Yeah.
That's all Edgewater, and that is, you're going to have 7,000 new homes going in there.
And I believe that's just the start, because, I mean, where I grew up over in the manor, you know, my last name's Albritton. They used to own all the Orange Grove right before you hit 192 if you're going out to Harmony. I believe that's probably next when it comes to residential, all that land out there.
It's already started.
Brick Lake and things like that, and of that nature. Luckily, there's a couple of different commercial properties in the area, but not enough to, as you said, sustain a very fast, long-term turnaround and growth. So that's why I asked that question is, you know, you almost always want to leave something in better shape than what you found it in. I mean, at least you should, in my opinion.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And I will vote based on my conscience and what is, I believe, is best for the betterment of the entire city and all of its people. You know, because a lot of people have asked me, well, when you become mayor, you know, what executive powers do you have that other councilmen don't? And I look at them just clearly and say, none. You know, the mayor in St. Cloud has no kind of authority above and beyond the council. I would essentially be chairman of the board, and I have one vote, just like the other 4 council members.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm in that position with BNI, right? I'm the mayor of our chapter, essentially, in that regard. You know, like, sure, I get to make a decision, but I don't get to make the decision. And I would never, you know, when you have people around you that you trust and that you really value their opinion, you almost never want to make the decision because you trust them with the decision. And I think that's a cultivating, like, leadership thing and a lot of people don't really understand that don't know the inner workings of kind of a board or trying to make moves for the collective and not themselves, you know, because most people, unless they're the head of their household, you know, trying to make the best decisions, they don't really have to take those chances or to cultivate that kind of mindset within a room and things like that. And especially, like, that's a lot to put on a couple of people. You know, you're making decisions for a whole town.
Right.
You know, and I know you don't take that lightly.
No.
I know anyone else in that room, hopefully, and shouldn't take that lightly. But also, going to, you know, winding down here, you said you were probably going to have another event. Where can people find you besides on social media? Because let me just say, I'm an advocate for in-person, you know, getting to know someone. Like, you're going to have a lot of people reach out to you on social media.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them are going to get to know you and what you're actually about. So where can people find you? Where can people have a conversation with you? You know, I would advocate for, as someone that just started voting politically in the last 8 years and never cared about it at all in my life up until I was in my late 20s, early 30s, like, it helps to kind of make people aware that their vote counts and, you know, their issues are heard and you're taking those into consideration. So where can people find you? Where can people talk to you? Where can people kind of get their frustrations out and hear your solutions?
Well, they can call me. My cell phone is 321-412-0372. Day or night, if I don't answer, shoot me a text message. I do not have voicemail because it would be full all the time. Mm-hmm. I also have an insurance office of Narcoossee and Rummel. It's 1380 South Narcoossee Road, St. Cloud, Florida, 34771. You can pop in, have a conversation with me. If I'm not there, leave a note, call me, shoot me an email, tony@tonybusby.net. You know, you can find me online at tonybusby.net. And one other big thing that I just want to mention before we go is I've had a lot of people who own businesses who actually live in the county or another town, and they'd be like, well, I appreciate you stopping by, but, you know, I can't vote for you. And I tell them, well, do you want somebody who's going to listen to what you have to say? Do you want an advocate for your business in office? That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be an advocate for the businesses in this town.
It's a good point. I mean, we can touch on that a little bit of, like, again, even if you don't think you're going to vote or you don't think that, you know, the city of St. Cloud or anything within those limits has anything to do with you. And I think as a business owner, it's funny to me as a business owner myself that people wouldn't just look at you as a resource. Like, even if you essentially can't do anything for them at that moment, why not bring you in as a resource of just like, hey, you know what? I know a guy who has a question. I don't have the answer, but I can, as with BNI, like, you know someone that has an answer, you have an answer.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and believe it or not, BNI has been really helpful in preparing me for this campaign as well. Mm-hmm. You know, I joined BNI in, I think, 2018 or 2019, after, you know, I had all kinds of craziness going on before, but, you know, the networking skills it's provided me, the associations with local people and businesses has helped drive my passion for that small business. Even with my own business, you know, as an insurance broker, I focus specifically on small business. I have staff that'll do home and auto, but I want to be the guy to help protect your American dream.
Sure. And obviously that's far important. And I mean, we could talk all day about the benefits of BNI. I haven't even been doing it long enough, but I've been doing it long enough to see the benefits. I've seen them immediately. I seen them before I even joined or started anything. Like, I knew, like, this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah, I was number 4 or 5 in the room, too,
yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's all Christine's fault.
Yeah, shout out to Christine.
Thank you, Christine Moody.
Yeah.
Captain.
She's great. I think that's about all I have for you. I'm sure we'll have many more conversations like this. Sure. And I appreciate you so much because, I mean, I don't know if anybody else is doing what I'm doing, but even if they are, or even if they're not, you still take the time to come talk to me on camera. We'll both be able to get it out there. Like I said, be exposed to each other's audiences. I mean, it's great. You know, my family's very much into, almost to their detriment, to where I can't stand talking to them some of the time, is politics. But you've given them an outlet in so much of a way of like, oh, well, at least I have someone to vote for mayor that I actually know, and it's a familiar face, and I have someone to vouch for them. So that's been helpful for me and my family personally. But again, thank you so much for your time all the time. You never don't take my phone calls. You never don't get back to me. You're always on top of it with business. And I think that's all of those things and those accountable traits are the reason you're sitting in the position you're in, and are going to be the reason you're sitting in an even more advantageous position in a year.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. I want to thank you for having me. You know, like I said, I have an open door policy. Somebody has a question, come talk to me.
Sure. Tony, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dalton.
Appreciate it.